Good evening, YouTube. Welcome to the live stream. And Sharks fans, the pendulum is about to shift. Darn it. There we go. Actually, the pendulum is about to swing. Shift, swing, same idea. Am I live? I better check that. I'm always nervous now. A couple times ago, I got burned on this. I think we're set here. Live streaming to the world from the home studio. Hello. Yes, I'm wearing sweatpants. As indicated here by this beautiful graphic, it's a critical stretch ahead for this team. The next 6 games specifically, next 6 to 10, could largely help determine the course of the rest of this season. Now, 8 games in the books out of 56 total. I'll let the music do its thing here. 8 out of 56 completed, and now they've passed this point that was very much uphill, against all odds, being on the road for more than a month straight, almost 40 days away from home with training camp and the way that started and all these road games. Look, I think it is very fair to recognize what they were up against out of the gate. But now, as I'm saying here, the pendulum is about to swing from something that was difficult and inconvenient to something that's a lot more favorable. And that's a lot of home games. That's the ability to actually play your home games at home, to know how the rest of this season's going to go, and most importantly, to also get a huge reset with some practice time and this week off. Now, we've already discussed and we've already declared that nobody wishes ill on the Las Vegas Hockey Club. I mean, that's so unfortunate. What they've had to go through, how they're going to have to restart. I hope everybody's okay. Honestly, I don't know hardly any more details than what was originally put out by the league, and that they're all going to have to basically shut down, and that the spread was a little bit more wide than first expected. And by the way, I also saw earlier today that the Minnesota Wild, another team in this Western Division, are also going to seemingly go through a very same experience here. I think their next game, they won't even play until February 9th at the earliest. So back to this, though, and back to the Sharks. They're so fortunate that the schedule worked out where they really exerted themselves in these 2 weeks, got 8 games done, all played on the road, and then now more than a full week off. And when I say off, I mean there have been practices, but the opportunity to reset, recuperate, and recover a little bit. And now the way it plays out, and I want to put this here up on the screen to make sure you can see it first before I actually go to it. All right, there we go. The way that it was supposed to play out was Anaheim, Kings, and then Ducks again. But this Las Vegas game here was one of the changes on Saturday the 13th. So it was going to be the next 6 straight against California teams. And it was going to be the next 6 straight, let's be honest, against relatively struggling Southern California teams and 2 franchises that are not predicted to have great seasons. And this is the area, going back to this is the area here where you want to start to capitalize. You want to turn that pendulum in your favor from, on the road and tougher assignments. You've already seen St. Louis, you've already seen Colorado, Minnesota. Not the easiest team to play against, and those first 2 in Arizona were just kind of like getting the feet wet for the first time in a very long time. So there are these 5 games, 5 out of the next 6 against the California teams, and you're ultimately going to get a taste of Las Vegas by the end of February here. But what you're also going to get after these next 4 games are done for the Sharks, you kind of look at the bigger picture here in the grand scheme of things, all the road games that they're going to play this season. 28 total road games. And after these next 4 are done, 12 of your 28. So approaching halfway through your road games for the entire season are done within the first month. Now that has to bode well for this team, and especially in crazy times during a pandemic. I mean, it's nice to have that hard part of the season out of your way. So, like I said, the way things have been going, the week that they just had, and what lies ahead all seem like a huge weight shifting from one direction to the other. But here's the thing. When you go up against Los Angeles and when you go up against Anaheim, if you really want to prove yourself, you want to separate yourself from being on the bottom half of this division to being one of the top 4 teams, you got to take care of business against those clubs. And I understand in their first 8 games, a lot of people point out different things. And I'm one to see the side that says, all right, 3 wins out of 8 games. Okay, would I prefer 4? Let's say it was 4. It's not, but let's say it was 4. Pretty respectable, all things considered. But it was only 3, and some people will take it even a step farther than that and say, all right, out of those 3, only 1 was in regulation. You allowed points to the opponent in 7 of your first 8, which is a true statement. It's not false. But again, all things considered, I'm putting all of this in the bigger picture, the start, no exhibition games, no training, shortened training camp, not at home. I'm putting that all into consideration, and I'm kind of canceling it all out. You can't say that it didn't happen. It did. But the Sharks definitely did not, tank right out of the gate. It's not to say that they already have their backs up against the wall. It's a little bit tighter than they would like. But they've gone through this super hard part of the season that quite honestly, no other NHL team has had to go through it to the lengths and the depths that they have so far. And let's also paint this picture too, to say that getting a hot start in a shortened season is especially important. So they didn't ruin their ability to have a good start to this season. But again, all of that really now lies on what's ahead. And let's just take a quick look ahead, right? So 4 more on the road. You get your first actual home game on Saturday the 13th, and then again on the 15th. Then you got to make a quick jaunt all the way out to St. Louis, and then things actually benefit more. 2 more home games to end February. And then another, 5 more. So 7 in a row into February, beginning of March. You only have to go to Anaheim and Las Vegas here. That's a walk in the park, relatively speaking, travel-wise. Home for St. Louis, home for the Kings. 1 quick trip out to the desert, then back home for the Wild. 1 quick trip to LA, then back home for more. There is 1 more trip out to Minnesota, 1 more out to Colorado. You see there at the end of April, but that is it. It's a short season to begin with. Don't get me wrong. I know I'm reveling in, the travel side of it. Let's be honest. It's more about the opponents they're playing and that challenge. But my point here is that now is the opportunity to get into a rhythm. And this is kind of the telling point of the season. I'm not here to say that games 9 through 18 or 19, that they're going to decide the entire season, but this is definitely going to set a tone for what they're capable of, what they're up against, the pad that they can create for themselves, the comfort factor that they could create for themselves in the standings. It's not going to be easy this year. Games aren't going to be easy. I've said this before, and I'll repeat it here again. I don't think they're going to get blown out a lot. I also don't think they're going to win a lot of games by a healthy margin. That's just the nature of this. First of all, the parity of the NHL, but the nature of this Western Division, the nature of this season. I think the rest of the Sharks games are going to be close. I also think the standings are going to be incredibly close. And by the way, I apologize that I keep referencing down here on my phone, but I took a walk today, and while I was on this walk, the thoughts were really flowing. I wish I were doing that live segment while I was on my walk. It might have turned out better. Like everything was just really, clicking and hitting on the walk. So I dictated some notes into the phone that I wanted to repeat here. But 2 more things, and then I'll close it out. I'm trying to keep this one relatively short and concise. But we talked a lot about being behind the curve for the Sharks because they were holding training camp away from home, their first 8+ games. Realistically, if they didn't have this break at home, they'd still be on the road right now in Arizona. But the point is that the comment and the commentary of no exhibition season and a shortened training camp at some point, and I think we are at that point now, 8 to pretty soon 10 games into the season, and now more than 3 weeks, some of that has to be probably washed away because everybody was up against that. Certain teams had it tougher than others, but now we're at the point where if you're not in tune with your season, I don't know how much you can go back and say, well, it was how we set up for this thing. That will become less of a factor. I do think that was a factor, realistically, first 8 games, but I think we're also getting away from that point. So just to say that I could see that as a reason for certain struggles, certain situations, but I think now moving forward, that's less of a conversation. And I also want to say this too. I think there's a huge deal with, setting, like I said earlier, getting in a rhythm, setting a tone, not just winning these next handful of games, but there's also this. The Sharks, and I struggle with the right way to phrase this. Earlier I thought, well, they need to find an identity. And that's probably too detailed. That's probably too personal. It just, your brain can go a bunch of different ways with that. So what I've decided might work best is that the Sharks need more of a defined calling card in this season. They need to figure out the way that they're going to consistently win games, the way that they're going to be difficult to play against, the way that they're, going to earn their points on a consistent basis. Now, is that going to be outscoring the opponent on any given night? And, if it's a 6-4 game, 6-5 game, then so be it. Is it that type of scoring firepower? Is it the lockdown defense that's going to keep it low scoring, maybe not the sexiest games, but the winnable games? Is it going to be their special teams, like really good PK and the power play that gets clicking again? What is your team's calling card? I'm not going to go with identity. I'm going to say, what is your team's calling card? If they can win a handful of games here coming up and do it with a defined calling card, all right. You know what? I mean, you're not going to clinch a playoff spot. Here's the thing. You're not going to get yourself out of a playoff position in the next 6 to 10 games necessarily. I mean, you'd really have to struggle. But you're not going to maybe put yourself in a playoff spot either. But you're helping create the scenery for the rest of the season and the storyline for the rest of the season. I really am. That is the title of this video. It's a critical stretch ahead. It definitely is. Like I said, and it's also a stretch where the pendulum has seemed to move in favor of the Sharks. And by the way, pendulum is a weird word. February is also a weird word. Just the way it's spelled. February. I'm going to start second guessing every time I say it now, especially on TV on Friday night. So look, that's going to do it. I really appreciate you for jumping on here on the live stream. I know I didn't get into a whole lot of questions and comments. That's just what I wasn't doing this time around. I definitely will in the future. Yeah, I do see there are some of them. Yes, there is a game on Friday. At least as of right now there is, as far as I know. Sharks and Anaheim going at it. And look, let's hope it's the start of a next chapter, a really good chapter for the Sharks. Let's hope we're talking about this magical week off that they had. And it catapulted the rest of their season. I mean, I don't think that's too out of reach to think that something like this, based on all the comments, everything I've seen and heard players say, it's possible. So we'll be along for the ride. We will see you on Friday, 6:30 for Sharks Pregame Live. Good night, everybody.